What's that? I haven't put out a video in 18 months. People are saying I'm dead. Oh, yeah, I should probably do something about that. There are probably a few people out there that have been watching my videos from the beginning who would know that I've developed a certain style over time as I've been creating these. These days my videos are a bit more structured than they used to be, usually with a start, a middle, and an end. Because of this, there were sometimes outliers during my adventures that I did record, but for whatever reason, whether it be the structure or relevance, they just didn't make it into the episode that they were shot alongside. I would often show these clips during the end slates of my videos because there was always a chance that I was going to use them in the next episode. I have been asked a few times about some of the clips that were briefly shown but then never ended up showing up the next week. So today I thought I would compile a few of them into a video, and that's what you're watching right now. The EverQuest Lost Adventures. So to start things off, we're going back to March 2015. I had just hit level 50 and I was finally leaving the City of Mist after literally months of leveling there. I had always planned to go to Karnal's Castle once I was 50 plus, and this was my first ever group that I'd landed there on P99. It was a right courtyard group. I think we were here for about 30 minutes before someone suggested that we move to the Hole. Now, I'd never been to the Hole before, not even on live. I had heard about it though. I knew that you needed a key to get in there, and once you were in there, getting out was almost impossible unless you had access to some sort of teleport or another key just to get out of the zone. Scary stuff for a humble monk such as myself. But I figured we had a capable group, including a cleric, a druid, and an enchanter, so I may as well take the plunge. We all gathered up and the druid ported us to Toxulia Forest. I'm pretty sure this was my first time here since playing on P99. And I mean, Otis was never really a place I frequented back on live either, so even this was somewhat of a new experience to me. And even though this is technically a level 1 to 10 zone, I couldn't help but get that classic feeling of uneasiness and uncertainty that you kind of get when you're traveling to an unknown place. We all kind of fumbled our way through the Toxulia Mist and towards Payneal. It's really not a hard trip. I mean, the zone's a giant rectangle. You can just point yourself in the right direction from the druid rings and run straight and you can't miss it. But at the time I didn't really know that, so I was just playing follow the leader. So a quick scamper through the noob yard and there we were, at the entrance to the ruins of Old Payneal, or better known as the Hole. Once we gathered at the entrance and got everyone fully buffed, we started making our way down. The zone really is quite fascinating. The entrance is lined with 2 rows of these earth elemental guards. Even just sitting in the front door seems like it would have been a struggle without an enchanter in our group. Once we finished making our way through the guards at the entrance, the zone turned into this sort of rocky, dirt-like tunnel, and it started going deeper, until you turn a corner and all of a sudden you're standing on this rocky ledge inside this massive cave, and in the center there's a giant dilapidated castle. It really was quite breathtaking. We worked our way down the ledge until we got to what I was fairly sure is the point of no return. Once you jump down this ledge, there's no way out unless, to my limited understanding, you have to find a key to the tower that leads back up to the ledge, or you just get to teleport out. We set up camp at the bottom of the ledge next to the castle entrance and began to pull. There was another monk in the group who had been here before, so luckily for me, he was able to pull in the beginning, which meant that a lot of the stuff was split by the time it was my turn. But regardless of that, there's nothing quite like attempting to pull inside a dungeon that you've never been to before. I didn't get too lost, and after a while I did start getting the handle of the layout. So we killed elementals, ratmen, fiends. We managed to down a named elemental called Rock Soul. He dropped a loam encrusted cap. I believe it's a pretty nice int caster helmet. The elementals frequently dropped elemental binders. It's an okay lower end mage hat, but they are lore, so it seems like they rot pretty often once everyone in the group has one. A smouldering brand dropped off one of the ratmen. These are a great little weapon for early game. It's a one-hand blunt that can be used by all classes and all races. It's also a magic weapon and it's 9 damage, 22 delay. But what's so great about it is it can proc burn, which is a low-level mage nuke. It does around 10 damage, but it procs at level 1. So yeah, it's, like I said, it's good for like lobies. There's also a unique set of plate mail armor that drops here. It doesn't have any stats other than armor class, and it's basically just vendor trash for anyone who's actually capable of killing stuff in the zone. But it's got a nice grayish, almost black pigment to it. So I did manage to pick up a few pieces for like my cleric's fashion quest or whatnot. Other than that, it was just the usual kind of late game dungeon stuff, you know, valuable gems and other kind of decent vendor trash. The group itself was absolutely fantastic. We had basically no downtime. We had the whole zone to ourselves. We had endless mobs to kill. In about the 2 hours that I was there, I got almost 40% through level 50. So, I mean, the XP was extraordinary. But, you know, unfortunately, once one person has to go, the whole group pretty much has to leave, because finding replacements to come down to the hole, it's not really an easy task. We ended up porting back to West Commonlands and the party disbanded. This, however, is not where this tale ends. So I ended up buying the Smouldering Brand off the enchanter who had won it during the group. It's one of those items that I always like to have if I ever want to mess around with a new character, considering anyone can use it and it procs at level 1. He gave it to me for 350 platinum, and if I remember correctly, back in 2015, I think those were going for around 500 platinum standard back then, so it was a really good deal for me. We also got to talking about the whole key, and he kindly offered to take me to go get one on his druid. At the time, I had no idea how it was even acquired. I just assumed, like most late game dungeons, that you had to do some sort of quest. Turns out I was wrong. All you have to do is go down below Payneal into the evil erudite starting city and buy it off a merchant. The only trick is that you need a separate key just to get down into the city. If you're at least amiable with the heretic faction, you can go up to one of the skeleton guards and get the key just by saying, "I need keys," with a Z. But if you aren't, an easy way to get around this is to just make a level 1 erudite necro or shadow knight and come and let the other person in, which is what was done for me. Luckily, all the guards down here are fairly low level, so it was easy to bypass them. Payneal at first seemed quite complicated, but once you get the hang of it, the layout's not so bad. Using sneak and feign death, I was easily able to reach the vendor and buy the key. It cost me just over 100 platinum, and I even bought some food while I was there. All that was left to do now was sneak back out and port back to the Commonlands. I've actually soloed a little bit of the whole entrance now that I have better gear and a few extra levels. I haven't been brave enough to venture past the point of no return by myself, but the hole is one of the best places for XP in the game for the early 50s. I know there is some sort of raid style boss deeper in the dungeon. I really would love to return to the hole someday with a fully organised group and have some serious fun. Alright, next up. This was in April of 2015 over in Permafrost. I'd travelled here to do part of the Monk Headband and Shackle quests, and even though I got the 2 items I needed from the zone almost straight away, I ended up staying here for about, I want to say a week, because I found that the zone was actually quite lucrative. I was making good money by killing goblins and vendoring the ore that they dropped. And I was also doing a rotation of all the named mobs that spawn in this zone. The items that drop here, the stuff like wolf fur slippers and the mammoth hide cloak, they used to sell like hotcakes, but these days with Velios out and such a saturation of good gear on the server, they don't sell anywhere near as well as they used to. There is one other prized item that drops in here, and that's the woolly spider silk nets. These you can right click from your inventory to instantly cast root on your target. They sell for about 500 plat a pop, and they're still very sought after even to this day. They're also a really handy tool for monks, especially now that sneak pulling has been nerfed. One of the days I was just doing my Permafrost rounds, and I noticed that this usually deserted zone was very quickly filling up with players. And you know, that can only mean one thing: Lady Vox must be up. Now, I've always wanted to see Nagy and Vox. I never got to do them on live, and realistically, I'll probably never get the opportunity to do them on P99 either, so I figured I wasn't going to miss the chance to at least go and look at the fight. So for those that don't know, anyone that is above level 52 that engages either Lord Nagathan or Lady Vox, they'll get banished from the zone. Because they are 2 of EverQuest's original 3 raid targets, 3 months after Kunark came out, the devs decided they didn't want high level players going back and killing them with ease due to, you know, the extra 10 levels and all the sweet gear that Kunark offered at the time. So what they did is they capped the fights at level 52. Omni showed up first. I kind of shadowed these guys as they cleared the path towards Vox. I hung around, pretending like I was part of the crew, sort of casually strolled on in. I wasn't disappointed with what I saw. The fight looks great in all its classic majesty. So Vox does an AoE Fear and an AoE Cold Damage plus Cancel Magic spell. It hits for around 500. The Fear didn't seem to be hitting me, but I was taking damage even at the very edge of the cave. At the time I was level 51, and I was rocking the Crescent gear that I'd gotten from Dalnia, so it's not like I had any frost resistance or that much health to play around with. So basically what I would do is I would watch for a few moments, and then I'd decide I should probably play it safe, run back out, drop aggro, and then bandage up a bit. So the initial team wiped, and I didn't realise this at the time, but a second guild, Divinity, had showed up. They engaged Vox pretty much as soon as Omni wiped. Now, I just thought they were all part of the same giant raid force, so as I was kind of sitting here watching them all res and rebuff with my UI toggled off, after a few minutes of just kind of sitting there watching, I noticed that a lot of them had started to port out. It was then that I realized Divinity had come in and engaged Vox as soon as they wiped, and then they were kind of waiting outside for a chance to try again if Divinity failed. So back then I didn't really understand how free-for-all raid targets worked. But to my limited knowledge, Nagi and Vox are free-for-all, which means they are FTE, or first to engage. So how it works, I assume, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, the first guild that engages them in combat gets the kill, provided they can actually kill the target. If they wipe, then once the dragon resets, in that case Omni was FTE, but they wiped, then Divinity got the next FTE upon her reset, and then successfully killed her. So I snuck in once I had realised what happened to see Divinity standing victorious over their kill. It was a pretty fun experience for me to witness, even if I was only involved as an outsider. Funnily enough, by chance, I logged back into Permafrost about 13 days later, and she'd just spawned again, like pretty much right as I'd logged in. Omni were there again, and this time, although I didn't get to kind of witness it firsthand, it seems they were victorious the second time around. Alright, this next clip is also from April of 2015. Again, I came to Janna for one of the Monk Sash quests for Freeport, I believe. It was pretty fun learning the ins and outs of this dungeon. You know, I'd never really come through here thoroughly before. It didn't take me long to navigate my way through the zone and find exactly what I needed for the quests. As I was leaving, however, I did notice that there were these two naked Dark Elves fighting their way inwards from the entrance. Now I remember passing two dead Dark Elves as I entered the zone earlier, so I decided to help them out. I dragged their bodies back to the front, you know, as you do, and I got to talking with them. So they were leveling here, but not only that, they were trying to get some quest items as well. As far as I'm aware, Janna is a pretty important place for magicians. I think all of their pet focus items have components that can drop here. So I decided that I would hang around and help them out. We started off just kind of killing mobs around the entrance, just doing a bit of basic monk power leveling. After a while I kind of decided I wanted to start bringing mobs from deeper in the dungeon back. So Janna has a very original EQ style setup where you have to go and loot keys off monsters to progress deeper into the zone. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 keys all up from memory. Some of them are dropped from named mobs that have placeholders, so what that means is they're not guaranteed to be up all the time. We did end up getting all the ones we needed to get to Janna. That's actually a name of the NPC inside the zone, and it is also a name of the zone. Just, you know, not to be confusing or anything. So over the course of the night, we managed to fight all the way down to her room. I think we stayed there maybe 2 or 3 rotations, and luckily enough, she ended up spawning and she dropped the Flowing Black Robe, which was a nice upgrade for the mage that I was helping out. He also got the item that he needed for his focus quest, the Shovel of Ponds. Not off Janna, but you know, just during like the way down here. So all he had left to do was get some Hill Giant Toes, a Gargoyle Eye, and a Ruby in order to finish that quest off. For some reason, I knew that I randomly had a Hill Giant Toe in my bank. So we fought our way back up the top. I hit up the bank, grabbed him the toes. I also dropped him some cash to buy the ruby so that he didn't have to burn through any of the spell money he may have had. I actually ended up running into this same mage again over a year later, and he was in his late 40s, I think, or maybe even early 50s if I recall. It's always really cool to see people that you helped out, you know, back in the low levels, make it through to endgame, or at least what I, as a filthy casual, consider to be endgame. The last clip is from October 2015. This was fairly soon after I'd reached level 55. I randomly got sent a tell asking if I wanted to come and pull King Tranix in Sol B. I had some free time to spare, so I accepted the offer. So it was a druid who had invited me. The druid was recruiting people from out in the world and then porting around to pick them up and then bring them to Lavastorm. He then logged on over to his cleric. The group ended up being 2 warriors, a cleric, and myself. Quick fun fact, this ogre warrior is actually the same ogre warrior that I grouped with in a previous adventure video I did back in Lower Guck. A coincidence that I only noticed while editing this video. We cleared our way through the bugs and bats and the lava duct crawlers. Back then, I didn't really know the way through the tunnels very well. Looking back on this now, I know exactly where everything is because I've since spent some time leveling here in Sol B. We all had levitate, so we took a shortcut across the lava and set up camp here on this ridge. Again, unfortunately, I didn't have any experience in this zone back when this footage was taken, so I was kind of slowly fumbling my way forwards from this point. Not that it mattered though, because what ended up happening was, after we finally got fully buffed and the cleric had meditated to regain mana, we started clearing towards the king's room, only to see that another monk and a shaman had already swooped in and killed him. So what had happened is, while the druid was recruiting people such as myself and these 2 warriors to come and kill Tranix, he had sent a tell to one of these 2 guys, most probably the monk. That monk declined the offer and instead, what I'm guessing he did, was go and grab his shaman buddy and headed straight there to kill Tranix himself. And that was while the druid was porting around trying to gather up the group that we have together. No matter though, it was still an enjoyable experience, kind of a small taste at like smaller endgame targets that have the potential to drop items that have pretty big value, and you know, the whole rush to get to them first. Alright, I want to do a small little channel update. I know I haven't posted anything in a long time, and instead of boring everyone with excuses as to why, I'm just going to say I have been playing P99 again since around mid-November, and I am planning on making more up-to-date videos. I'm not going to make any promises as to exactly when stuff will be released, because I've done that in the past and, you know, for whatever reason, I've failed to deliver. So to avoid potentially letting viewers' expectations down, I'm just going to say stuff's going to happen as I find the time to make it happen. There is one thing that I feel like I do need to briefly explain, and this is 100% going to happen as I've already finished all of it. So I'm going to re-upload the first 8 episodes of the Classic Adventure series to this channel. For anyone who hasn't been around since the beginning, I originally started this show on my old channel. That was called Varios. That was back in 2013. It was the same channel that I did my EverQuest retrospective on, and that's what got me started on Project 99. Now, when I started playing my monk, I was watching an old Japanese TV show called Monkey Magic. That's something I've been watching since I was a kid, so I decided I wanted to make a parody of the intro of that show and use it for the intro on the video series I was making for my monk. That included the song used in the intro of the TV show. Over a year later, one day, randomly, I got a copyright notification on a couple of the videos that had the song in that intro. The copyright claimed that the song belonged to a rapper from the Dominican Republic. As far as I was aware, this was false, because I know the song is from a Japanese rock and roll band from the 1970s. So I managed to dispute these copyright claims, but because of that, and some other reasons at the time, I wanted to move to a new channel and have a fresh start, just to kind of play it safe. I left all the old videos where they were, and I just continued on this channel. That's why this series appears to randomly start from episode 9 on the Flats HD channel, in case anyone was wondering. A few months ago, over 3 years after those original copyright claims had successfully been disputed, all of those videos got claimed again, and this time I was unable to dispute them. It is possible that the record company that this rapper belongs to has acquired the rights to said song from the 1970s Japanese rock band. I don't know. So I've taken those old 8 episodes, I've removed all the intros, I've fixed some of them up a little bit and created new unique thumbnails for each individual video. I'm going to re-upload all of them to this channel, but I'm going to schedule them to be released once a day for the next week, just so I don't spam your subscription feed with like a wall of videos. Please don't feel the need to watch them again if you don't want to, but if you do, you know, that would be great. It's going to be really good to finally have them all in one place again. And now that I've got all this stuff done and out of the way, I can move on to making new videos. I've been playing the last 2 months and I've got a whole bunch of new stuff ready to be created. So please look forward to some new Reptox videos in the future. I'm hoping to finish my epic in the next few months, and I would love to try and get a bunch of you guys that play, who watch the show, involved. It should be really fun. But for now, I just want to thank you so much for hanging around and watching, and I'll see you next time.